Oh, hello there. Welcome back to another educational informative video where I am going to be explaining my personal favorite killer right now. That's not true. I really like this killer. I have been having a lot of time with Leatherface. I actually think of myself more as a Leatherface main now than anything else, but I'm still going to say Plague's my favorite. Okay, but right now we're here to talk about Leatherface and not the Plague. So let's have a little bit of a look at my build. Now at first glance, the build looks pretty simplistic, yeah? But this build is high skill gap. It also has high risk, therefore it has high reward. That being said, we only have one risk perk in here right now, and that is Ruin. But before I get into it, guys, make sure you slap that subscribe button for more educational, informative content like this one before, and if you want to see me with a new hat, by all means, let me know in the comments down below as well. But we're going to be having a look. Now, generally, I follow the 4 principles on majority of my killers when I play Dead by Daylight. These 4 principles is 4 different perks, right? We have one perk, which is Gen Protection. We have one perk, which is Situational Awareness. We have one perk, which is Stall, and we have one perk, which is Utility. My build right now is kind of lacking out on one of them. Surveillance falls under 2 different categories, and so does Ruin. Ruin's falling under Gen Protection and Situational Awareness in terms of the fact that Surveillance is entwining with it, yeah? But I am lacklustering in a Stall perk. However, how does this build work? What does Ruin do? Whenever a survivor has worked on a generator, when they let go of that generator, it will regress at twice the rate. Now, a generator regresses at 0.3% of what is completed per second. Therefore, it'll regress at 0.6% of what is completed per second. So it actually regresses really fast. When a survivor's working on a gen, when they let go, they'll instantly see the sparks. Therefore, they'll know I have Ruin, and it will give them an indicator on the right. Full disclaimer about Ruin, though. If you're using Ruin and Surge, and a survivor's working on a Jenny, you will make the generator explode, they'll let go, and it will start regressing, then they can jump back on it. So Surge does work with Ruin, but Pop does not, based on Ruin always happening. But if you run Pop and Ruin, you have the stability for when you lose Ruin. Now, the issue with Ruin is it sounds like a great perk, however, it will be on one totem that appears randomly on the map. 5 totems will appear on the map, 4 of which will be dull, and Ruin will be on the lit totem. This being said, it could be in a good spawn, it could be in a bad spawn. Therefore, the risk for the reward for the strong benefits that this perk comes with. Now, the next perk entwines hand in hand with Ruin, right? This perk is called Surveillance. What does Surveillance do? When a survivor is working on a generator, when they let go of the generator and I force it to regress, therefore, with Ruin, it will automatically regress when a survivor lets go. The generator will then glow white permanently. The second a survivor starts working on that Jenny, the generator will now glow yellow or green. It's a mixture of yellowy green color. It'll be like that for 16 seconds. Right? Therefore, I know when a survivor is on that Jenny. It'll also have louder indicators. You don't want to worry about the second half. So what happens now? How do I play Bubba? Bubba has a 32-meter tear radius. Quick look at his build. He has a 32-meter tear radius. He's classified as easy to play. That's true to a degree. He has 4.6% movement per second. That equals out to 115%. He's a tall killer with a 32-meter tear radius. So what I actually do when I play Leatherface is I use my heartbeat to tell me where survivors are. As you'll note, his 3 teachables, Knockout, Barbecue, and Franklin's, I use none of those perks. A lot of people assume because you're playing Leatherface, you're going to be running Barbecue if they don't see Thrilling Tremor, because it's his own teachable perk and it gives good information. So what will happen is I will spawn in a map and I will walk around 2 Jennies but not check them. I will walk in about 20 meters, 24 meters away, and I'll use that to check a generator through Ruin, through Surveillance. Because if somebody's on it and they let go, it'll then be glowing. It'll then be glowing white, so I'll know somebody was on it, so I can come over and check. That way I don't have to worry about going upstairs for a platform or downstairs, and I'll use that to rotate around the board. Remember, when Ruin is destroyed, I will need to physically walk up to a generator that hasn't worked on it, hold the spacebar key to regress the generator. At default regress rate, Ruin only works while the perk is active. Therefore, I'll regressing at 0.3% per second, as opposed to the 0.6 with Ruin activated, but it will glow white until a survivor comes and touches it. So even with Ruin destroyed, Surveillance just gives me that massive bit of information of knowing where to go. Now the build comes together. Rather than explaining, I'll try and explain play with your food first, right? Play with your food. You're obsessed with one survivor. Every time you enter chase, and then you end chase without downing the survivor, you receive 5% movement speed until you use your next attack. Now, if you don't know what Leatherface's special ability is, it takes him 2.5 seconds. He will pull up his chainsaw, and then he'll release it. He'll go left, right, like a dance, then go up, down. During the up, down animation, he cannot hurt anyone. His left and right receive no movement speed benefit, but then his final two lefts and right, he does get a little bit of a bonus. Therefore, you'll notice this a lot with add-ons like award-winning chili and even beast marks, even though beast marks give you the consistency through each chainsaw release. What does Play With Your Food do? Like I said, I need to find my obsession. How do I know who the obsession is? In the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you will see the entity's hand around somebody's name. When I enter chase, you will hear a sound that you've initiated chase of the obsession, different to any other survivor. You will see the hand moving. Now I need the chase to end. When the chase ends, if I haven't downed the survivor, I get 5% movement speed. So, if I'm a good killer, and I can moonwalk, hide my light, and hit the survivor, and he pallet stuns me, or he gets a window, I will technically end chase. If these two survivors are together, and one's my obsession and one isn't, and I am the guy on the left, and I turn to look to the guy to the right, I'll get the 5% movement speed. If I even look at the guy on the left, and then I chase the guy on the right, I'll get the 5% movement speed. 5% movement speed is a lot. Remember, a survivor moves at 110% while running, with no enhancements like, obviously, Hope or Sprint Burst Active. They move at 100%. I move at 115. I get a stack of Play With Your Food. I now move at 120% movement speed. The next perk is Nemesis. What does this do? It stacks up to 3 times, but remember, every time I attack, I lose a stack. Therefore, I need to know that when I attack, I'm actually doing it. If I were to do an animation like a grab out of a locker over a window, when somebody's working on a pallet, if I were to do something like that, it doesn't consume the attack or a stack, so it doesn't count as an attack. If I were to rev my chainsaw, it doesn't count as an attack. When I release the chainsaw, counts as an attack. Keeping in mind, Bubba receives a penalty when he pulls up his chainsaw based on the fact that it has a multiple instant down potential. Play With Your Food count as a penalty and allows me to move faster than any survivor while doing this. Therefore, I'm not moving at 96 something percent, I'll be moving at like 101% movement speed, so I will be going faster, even with one stack. The thing about this build is so many bubbers try and build themselves around running multiple stacks of Play With Your Food. Now that's great, but that takes a lot of time, and generally you don't have a lot of time when playing DBD nowadays. So even one stack is huge. One stack, you can easily catch a very good survivor at a decent jungle gym. If you're a good bubber and you know how to work with stacks, you'll catch them at a god jungle gym. I'm talking really experienced loopers, just based on the movement speed alone. All the jungle gyms in Dead by Daylight, that my understanding out of playing the game for thousands of hours, are based around 115% movement speed killer. Pallet here, window here, distance, travel, and time, won't catch, survivor can still outplay until you get bloodlust. That rule doesn't really apply based on obviously your skill gap, your mind games, your baits on taking the window, not taking the window, the killers, moonwalks, M1s, chainsaw baits, body blocks. That's not taken into account, right? But the jungle gym's distancing generally is based on how many pallets there are, how unsafe the pallets are. There's going to be more unsafe pallets than safe pallets, of course. Remember, what does Play With Your Food do? It gives me 5% movement speed whenever I end chase with my obsession. What does Nemesis do? If you pallet stun me, if you decide to strike me, if you flashlight me, if you look at me, if you do any of these things, you become my obsession. If I pick a guy up who DS's me, I look at the ground, I instantly look at him, therefore I'm building a stack of Play With Your Food while he runs away. Now, the difference that separates the very experienced bubbers that know how to work with this build is the people that understand moonwalking. Now, moonwalking is complicated, right? A lot of people just think, oh, I turn around and I walk backwards in a line. You're right to a degree. If you walk backwards in a line against a wall, survivors can see your light clipping through the wall sometimes, so you need to aim out to the left-hand side and cuddle the wall on an angle. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the fact that you just M1 to David, he threw the pallet, so you're going to break the pallet while he takes distancing, getting a stack, then you're going to initiate chase, and then end chase again to have 2 stacks to apply it towards somebody else, depending on how well David's pathing is. Okay, different scenario. David King just took an M1 and didn't give you the pallet. Alright, so here's what you're going to do. You just M1 David, he baited the pallet, he now takes distancing. You have one of 2 choices. You instantly do a 180 and go the other way and chase somebody else, or you do a 180 and you moonwalk behind David, listening for his cry, while watching for his scratch marks and strafing through his scratch marks, while you're chasing him while outside of chase. Like the old school Legion that would follow you while you had to mend. You can do that on your bubber to gain your stacks of Play With Your Food. You can still do that on Legion if you're going to be running an anti-mend build, but at the same time, this is what separates people that know how to use Play With Your Food and people that don't. Understanding how good this pallet is. Is it a really good pallet? Don't M1 through it. Walk through it, pull up your chainsaw, watch the pro survivor try and bait you out by waiting at the pallet to make it look like they'll stun. Remember, this build gets stronger the more times you get pallet stunned. I can't stress that enough. You should almost never respect the pallet. You respect the pallet if the guy's injured and it's an unsafe pallet and you know you can mind game him where he currently is and he's already giving you a stack of play with your food, or you already have like, there are situations. I can't play out every situation the correct way. I still make mistakes. I can't tell you the proper way. I can't tell you, you take this pill 3 days a week and you'll grow an extra inch. I can't tell you that, right? I can give you hints and advice for the situations. If you can't get a hit in 15 seconds, if you can't get a pallet in 15 seconds, you've made a mistake. You know, if you play your cards right and you go for a moonwalk play and force them to pallet stun you and you're already in chase, you'll get the stack. But if you're doing a moonwalk play and you don't look at the guy while he pallet stuns you, he'll become the obsession. Remember, I forgot to mention, Nemesis allows you to know if somebody's running away or baiting the pallet. Generally, a lot of survivors will run to the right, wait there, see if you break it, then run back on the scratches. Therefore, a good huntress will turn to the right, moonwalk, pull up the hatchet, and then get him over the pallet. That's one of the options that you can do. Nemesis removes the uncertainty of knowing. Nemesis is the equivalent of alert, but for the killer when you're stunned. Keeping in mind, he's not going to hear a heartbeat for the next 60 seconds. He's going to see the red stain. And on top of that, he's also going to give you 5% movement speed. So maybe you don't want to catch him. Maybe he just threw a pallet. You'll take the stun. You'll break the pallet while he's block line of sight. You'll walk out. You'll hide your light. You'll moonwalk. You'll get a stack in the next 2 to 3 seconds. You'll then chase him. You then hear somebody working on a generator beside. You continue to chase the guy around the loop. You then end chase with that guy to initiate. That way you pull up your chainsaw. You release your chainsaw. You end a chase with that guy. You get another 5% movement speed. That'll apply through your chainsaw. You're now running a mile as Bubba, and nobody expects these mind games, these plays. Do you know why? Because a lot of people recommend Bubba to a new killer. If you're new to Dead by Daylight, yeah, play Leatherface. But when you've got somebody who's played for a while in the game that understands a majority of the mechanics, they can turn around and do these incredible plays that people don't understand. Generally, when people see you have play with your food Nemesis, they'll throw pallets early. And that's great. Get the pallet out of the way, rotate. Get the pallet out of the way. He's going to throw pallets. He threw 2 pallets in 20 seconds. Brilliant timing. What do I have left on the map? Do I want to protect that platform gen? Do I not want to play? The thing is, this build doesn't work without play with your food Nemesis. You need both. You don't run one, you run both. You run both or you run none. If you were to run none, you can go Enduring, Spirit Seer. You can go Enduring, Bamboozled. You can go Discordance and something else in wake of that too. You can run your build around that. You can go even, keeping in mind that I would love to run Surge if it applied off a chainsaw hit, but it doesn't. If it did, I would change my build. At the same time, you can get rid of Ruin for Corrupt for stability, but you won't be able to run the Ruin. You wouldn't be able to run the Ruin Surveillance combo. You could run Corrupt and Surveillance. It wouldn't have the wow factor. It would still be good, but this has great synergy, and even when this perk's destroyed, this perk is MVP, especially at forcing out stacks for the people that think you've rotated away and you've came back in. And majority of the time when a guy gets unhooked, he's going to run to his Jenny. It's 80% completed to tap it, to then run to the shack with Dia, and you can outplay those. Keep in mind, 5% movement speed doesn't sound like a lot, but all killers lunge off 115% movement speed. Apart from Michael Myers, even a nurse moving at 96.5% movement speed, if she doesn't blink, she lunges the equivalent distance of 115% movement speed. There's one killer who's the exception, Michael Myers. Michael Myers in Tier 1 has the smallest lunge in the range. Even running an add-on called the Boyfriend Memo, which prolongs his lunge slightly, is still the smallest lunge in the game. Michael Myers in Tier 2 is the same lunge as a Trapper. Michael Myers in Tier 3 is the longest lunge in the game. At 115% lunge, and then he makes a wick sound at the end where he goes an extra couple of inches because everyone wants those extra couple of inches. Keep that in mind. It's very important to note. Even a Hag at 110% movement speed lunges at the equivalent of 115. A lot of people misunderstand Freddy and think Freddy has the longest lunge in the game. Freddy's lunge is the same as the Trapper. Why does it look like he goes farther? Well, he's shorter, therefore when he does his attack, he needs to make it look like he's moving further and faster to cover the same distance as somebody who's taller. Think about it. That's how you cover the distance. With play with your food, it enhances your lunge. 1 stack of play with your food can out-lunge dead hard. Yep. 3 stacks of play with your food can lunge pretty just shy of the length of the shack. I'm not even kidding. If you're running, you can cover literally almost to the end of the shack, minus a meter and a half. You can cover some disgusting distance if you have all the stacks. Now you build those stacks based on what's happening. You're chasing Jeff, Nia's on the hook, and you slug Jake, and there's 3 Jennies left. Therefore, Claudette has to come off the final gen. She can't pop Adrenaline. It has to be altruistic. Therefore, you can get stacks of play with your food out of the other guy to then apply for a snowball potential. Understanding when to go for your stacks. Realistically, you should be running around the entire trial with 1 stack or no stacks and playing to that 1 stack. When you try and build up multiple stacks, that's when you lose the game because you get slammed in gens. that is how you play Leatherface, realistically, in a nutshell. Now, his add-ons do change him a bit. Beast Marks and Tuning are his 2 MVP best add-ons. He also has Primer Bulb for a faster chainsaw. He has Shock Lubricant down here as well. And you're looking at Spark Plugs, also honorable mentions to the Vegetable Oil, and the Meme Limiter, also the Speed Limiter. Not a great add-on, but still. Award-winning Chili is nowhere near as good as it seems, and alongside neither is Begrim Chainsaw, applying the Mangled penalty and decreasing generators, because keeping in mind, you're not going to only chainsaw down, you're going to be M1ing downing people, you're going to be trying to keep split pressure and multiple targeting, and if they choose to group and stack and heal, that gives you time to get stability and regression on all the gens, which is good, because then they're going to be down 3 pallets, they'll have no gens done, and they've all hid to group heal. Like, those kind of things are important to keep in mind. Plus, you know exactly where you're going throughout the board, through Ruin and Surveillance, and like I mentioned before, people assume you have Barbecue, so they're going to be using lockers to hide. I was playing a game of this with Leatherface. If you've looked at any of the educational Leatherface videos I've done a lot of them, you'll see how strong this build can be. People are going to be playing lockers thinking you have Barbecue and Chili, but you're going to be going over there because you have Ruin Surveillance, which they don't think about. And then when Ruin's gone, they don't understand you have Surveillance. I've caught many people out with it, especially on maps like Liars, which are not strong maps for Leatherface, with a 2.5 second chainsaw rev with no add-ons. So keeping that in mind, guys, that is going to be all for the educational, informative video on Leatherface. Make sure you hit that like or that subscribe button to support the stream as much as you possibly can, and the YouTube algorithm. It'd be great to have you guys in here. Make sure you pop into the educational, live, informative content I do over here at Twitch 5 days a week. It'd be great to have you in here. If you think you know everything about Killer or everything about Survivor, you can help me teach people that don't. If you think you're going to learn a couple of things, it's a great place to have you guys. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And let me know in the comments down below, what's your favorite Leatherface build? What do you run? What perks do you like? Do you think this build is great? Would you like to see Leatherface reworked? What would be a good add-on for Leatherface for being a pink add-on? I personally think a pink add-on for Leatherface increases chainsaw time, and he no longer stops when he breaks a pallet. He continues to go through, increase it by 0.5 second or so. Therefore, it's a 3 second chainsaw rev rather than 2.5. Let me know what you think, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Stay awesome, stay safe, and thank you all for watching, guys.